Before I start my video, I just want to let you know that I have created a new Discord channel on my Discord, and it is the RTS Armory. This was something that was recommended to me by Noah. Great recommendation. We do get a lot of questions about weapons. I did start things off just showing how to get a good rampage weapon if you want to get a rampage weapon for your Priya to do the sort of damage that you saw me doing in my war videos with my Priya hitting multiple times. This is the sort of weapon you want to build, and there is a nice walkthrough here. If you want to share the weapons you get, or if you have any questions about viable weapons for certain characters, this will be the section of my Discord to use. If you aren't on my Discord already, please check the description of my video and hit the link to join. Now on to the video, guys. Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video I'm going to be looking at the character crate this time around. Yesterday I looked at the weapon crate. Today I'm going to look at the character crate. This is something that I had requested by you guys on my live stream, and I did get some PMs on Discord as well if I was going to do a little look at the character crate. And the character crate is for the Roadathon event, and it is the easier crate to come by. As we can see in here is the choice box on the right. It is 20 tires to get. The one on the left is the weapon one, and it's 250. So you can see it's much easier to get the character crate. And it has got 4 characters in here. It has got Elena, Tye, Roadie and Kyle. And I will go through these characters just like I did the weapons from top left to bottom right. Now, first thing to mention is these characters come as 6-star characters, so there's not going to be much point looking at their 5-star versions in terms of their viability in 5-star arenas. We'll look at Elena first, and it is going to be a lacerator character, and that's pretty much the main thing that Elena is going to bring to the table. She has quite a nice rush in terms of the bleed, AoE, no actual AP, can attack behind Guardian shields, pretty good. And her active isn't too bad either. It's just a shame that the exhaust is so low. Otherwise you could have potentially used her on teams in Outlast where you want to not rush. The bleed damage is also extremely low in the S-class era, so not really much viability there. Her main thing is the lacerator, and this is going to come into good usage in things like faction assault. That's pretty much the primary usage of Elena's specialist skill as a 6-star character in terms of the power of the rest of her kit. There are better S-class characters that have lacerator. For instance, Dayu, for instance, Jason. These characters are much better than Elena in the S-class era, just because they have much higher defensive stats, so much higher survivability, and their rush active combo is much more potent when it comes to bleed damage output. One of the special parts of Elena's kit, however, is the fact that at the beginning of each wave, she gets an 8-turn focus, which is actually kind of crazy. That means that if there is a shield, she can attack behind it straight away. There were times when I was using Jiafeng and Elena in draft arenas. The bleed teams were quite effective, and she was quite fun to use. But as S-class characters got more and more powerful, the weapons obviously got upgraded with the armory upgrade to 5 stars. She just becomes much less effective, and she drops off real quick. So just to show you how her weapon works, basically you can see it's an 8-turn focus. It's full to the full 6, and then she gets an extra 2 yellows, and that means it's basically giving an extra 2 turns on top of those 6. You can attack anybody you want on the first turn, and then next turn, as you can see, their shield has shielded. Frost is shielding, and I normally wouldn't be able to attack anybody else. I can't attack anybody else on Priya, but I can select these characters still, and that's because one of my characters has focus, and it is, of course, Elena. And that would basically mean I can do this. I can also do her active behind the shield, and we'll just shield again, just so you see. I'll keep selecting Glenn here, and I'll attack with Priya, and you'll just see she attacks the shield instead, because obviously that's the way it's going to work. And what we'll do now is we'll do Elena's rush, just so you can see how it works. And again, I can rush behind the shields. It doesn't matter if everybody's got Guardian Shield at this point. 100% heal reduction and 400 bleed to everybody. So that's her rush, 100% heal reduction to all and 400 bleed. Not really going to do much in the S-class area when it comes to damage. However, the heal reduction is pretty nice. It is exactly the same as the active on S-class Wang Fa. So overall, Elena's not too bad, but in the S-class era, she's just not offering what she's meant to offer. Her role is damage, and she's not really offering any, because in the S-class era, 6-star characters are more support characters that enhance what other characters can do. If you did have, let's say, an S-class Matteo, and you didn't have an S-class Wang Fa, her usability would obviously increase a little bit, but she would have to be commanded quite early to get that 100% heal reduction off to be useful in combination with Matteo. So overall, Elena not a bad pick for something like Faction Assault, but for the raid system, war, that sort of thing, not the greatest character around anymore. Now the next character we'll go on to is Tye, and they have given this character out quite a lot. He was in leagues. I believe he was in like 5-star tokens or plenty of wheels that have been around. He isn't a character that is hard to come by. Majority of people probably have him already as a 5-star or as a 6-star. And he's actually not too bad as a 6-star when it comes to the amount of damage output he's got, mainly because his rush does burn damage, even though again he is considered a damage dealer. He does 700 burn damage for 3 turns to one character and all adjacent characters. 700 burn damage for 3 turns isn't too bad as extra damage, but you can't really rely on this. Again, in the S-Class era, it's not really high enough with the sort of HP numbers you can get on defense teams. 8 to 10,000 is generally the sort of number they're going to have, and they're going to be able to heal in that time as well. He doesn't really offer too much elsewhere in terms of what he does with his active skill or with his specialist skill. He's not going to be doing anything in Faction Assault or any other game mode in terms of usability. He is definitely not as good as Elena, but he does have a 100% heal reduction weapon. So when he does a basic attack, he has a better chance to cause 100% heal reduction for 3 turns. This is just kind of like interesting, but it's not 100% of the time that it's going to happen, and it's not really worth taking up a team slot for this sort of weapon, especially when the guy who's taking up that slot is a 6-star. So we'll see what happens when we attack with him, if we can hit one of the 100% heal reductions, and that is pretty much what he's offering, is the potential to do 100% heal reduction. That character can no longer get revived and no longer obviously get healed in those 3 turns. If he gets taken out, that's 3 turns of no revive potential. But after those 3 turns have worn out, even when the character is downed, the character then can get picked back up. It's mainly good to stop characters from getting healed if they've got infection on them. And if you want 100% heal reduction on a character from this crate, I would say Elena is a much better option. So the best thing with Tye would probably be to avoid him in this crate, just because we have got him already multiple times. We're probably going to get options to get him again. He is the modern day Yellow Cal. If you ever remember Yellow Cal, we did joke about this on my stream. He is definitely the modern day Yellow Cal. Next character in the crate is Rhodey, and Rhodey is a rarer character because we haven't had the chance to get her in any sort of war wheels and stuff. Elena and Tye have been in war wheels. I believe maybe in 5-star tokens, definitely one of them was in leagues with Tye. Now Rhodey herself has not been in that situation, and what she adds is more of a support role. Her role is actually support, and generally speaking, that's what I said about 6-star characters, is they should be more supportive as characters rather than trying to be damage dealers. We'll look at her rush, and it does heal characters for 70% of their max HP for 3 turns, so that's a massive heal, and they recover from heal reduction and maim. So there's a bit of added stuff going on there. If you actually want to have this character, she's going to be usable in other forms of the game. For instance, Faction Assault, having someone who could do such a heavy heal to all teammates is awesome. Now her active skill, one enemy and all adjacent enemies get dazed for 3 turns, is very, very powerful. Even on an attack team against particular teams, being able to stop active skills for 3 turns on turn 2 is nuts. Obviously, some characters will be able to resist this if they have resist mods, or for instance, the trader who has the specialist skill just be able to resist base of 50%. She is also a fire starter, so that means that any fire damage that she attacks will be spread to an adjacent character. Now, overall, her kit's okay. It's just more, like I said, a bit of a support kit. But where she becomes quite special is her weapon. Her weapon is actually pretty useful. And as you can see, it says, when attacking, a 100% chance to deal 1,000 burn damage for 3 turns when the enemy HP is more than 80%. Now, that is actually pretty good for a 6-star. That is actually pretty decent for an S-class character, especially when it's a 100% chance. It also works with her specialist skill. So when she does a basic attack, she'll burn them, then she'll spread it with her fire starter. So we can actually see how this works. So what we'll do is we'll attack Kapoor, and what should happen is 1,000 burn should go on Kapoor, and then the Gentleman or Pete should also get 1,000 burn because she'll also spread it with her fire starter. So we'll just do a basic attack. You'll see Kapoor gets it for 3 turns, and so does Pete. If we just do a basic attack afterwards, what we can do is we can either attack one of the characters that already have fire starter on them, or we can attack someone who doesn't and potentially get on these two characters. Let's see if that works, and it does. So like you can see, on the first 2 turns, we have got a grand total of 12,000 damage being dealt out by a 6-star character over 3 turns, which is actually a huge amount of damage output, but it's more additional on what other damage you're going to have to put on top. Pete's going to do his active right now, so you'd have to have someone who stops that. For instance, Priya, her daze will stop his active. We could also stop Kapoor's active on the next turn, but you are going to start seeing rushes coming in, and if there are healers here, they're easily going to out-heal this burn. So overall, Rhodey, I think, is pretty interesting. It was highlighted on my stream by quite a few people in the fact that she would be very usable on Onslaught, where you're trying not to rush to get a lot of points. Her weapon would be very, very interesting there. She is also a favourite character for a lot of people. She is kind of cool in terms of just her overall kit. I think a lot of people have kind of wanted her for a long time. Her usability in raids is kind of hit or miss, but if you are newer to the game, she will help you out just with that weapon, because that weapon is on her from the get-go and she is instantly a 6-star as well. So overall, I would say Rhodey is actually a pretty decent character and well worth the pickup if you do want her from this crate. Her main usage long term would be in Onslaught though, just like I said, for those no rush attacks where you can get extra points for your faction. So now we move on to the last character in this box, and it is going to be Kyle. Kyle as a character, again, kind of cool looking. He wasn't available in too many places. There was a faction assault event that kind of revolved around him because it was called Falcon Assault, but he wasn't the main reward. He was part of an RNG reward. It was kind of strange. Well, look at his rush, and it has a lot of control on this. Up to 3 enemies get confused and disarmed for 3 turns. All teammates recover from taunt, impair, and stun. So very nice rush. In the 6-star era, this was actually crazy. In the S-class era, it's still pretty good, but the usability of a character like this on a defense team is not very high. He can easily get one-shot by any hard-hitting blue, and there are quite a few hard-hitting tough characters out there. On an attack team, this could become useful, especially as Confuse is not really that widespread, so not many people use Confuse Resist right now. His active skill is deal 1200 trauma to a line of enemies for 3 turns. This is where it starts getting interesting because you could potentially use this on a no rush team in Onslaught, and he could combo really well with Willy as an S-class or a 6-star, and this guy would be dealing the trauma buff and Willy would be removing it, and every extra debuff on that character would deal 1200 damage. You can easily get 4 or 5 debuffs on a character without too much problem, so you could deal up to 5000 damage in that sort of situation. He does also have a leader skill, which is all alert and fast teammates get 40% HP and 40% defense. Now this is not the best leader skill nowadays for a 6-star character because he's mainly would have to be used on defense with this. If you had those certain characters to use behind him, and let's say you didn't have Jackie yet, he could be a good substitute for Jackie until you got her as an S-class character. But like I said, the issue he's going to run into is his stats on defense. He does also have a stun gun instantly, which is very nice. It means you don't have to do too many upgrades to get this as good as it can be. Just AP on attack and extra defense. For newer players, that is going to be a massive bonus. Okay, so we're going to attack exactly the same team again. And what we're going to have is we're going to have a command rush on turn 2. And we're going to do this on purpose because one thing that Kyle adds is disarm, and you can have a completely windowless team in this situation, and also he adds confuse to 3, and which is very, very good. So obviously this character is disarmed. If it had a stun gun, there'll be no problem. We can obviously just defend on the shield, and what we'll do is we'll just rush it out. It doesn't matter too much what happens. It's just to show you how quickly he can get his next rush, because what you'll see is I'll be able to actually get his next rush just as quick with the commands. As you can see, I can attack and do basic attacks. Those guys are still confused, and now I can command and lock him in. This is with a command where you lose a turn, so it's actually pretty good. You can lock down characters pretty well on an attack here. So he has got some usability as a controlling character on an attack team without a doubt. But like I said, he's going to be a bit flimsy. As you can see, he's only got 1600 HP base, and that is with max vet rings. So he is in trouble when it comes to his defensive stats. So overall in this crate, I think there are only really 3 options. I would say Tye is not an option at all. I would definitely eliminate him. Elena is the option if you want to increase your faction assault power, if you do not have a lot of lacerators, for instance. Rhodey is the character you want to claim if you want to go for an onslaught character or an SR character, and Kyle is someone who you'd want to go for if you were wanting to go for someone on a raid attack team, just to be a controlling character. Now, me personally, I think if I got my hands on this crate, I would probably take Rhodey, just because she is a character that I have wanted for a long time, and she is quite a lot of fun with that weapon, and the potential in onslaught just to create some niche teams, just to mess around teams, could be interesting. However, which character would you pick from this crate? Do tell me in the comments. That is the end of my video. Hopefully this has been useful for you guys who requested this. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.